Welcome back, everybody, to the Zero Doubt podcast. Today I have Brittany on, a blood sugar weight loss dietitian, that started a community on Instagram. You are Your Life Nutrition, right? So
Yes, that's right.
thanks for coming on. How are you?
Thank you. Yes, doing so well. I actually just put on a new CGM yesterday, so I am loving just diving back into all things blood sugar for my own personal health as well. So I'm excited to dive in today.
Perfect. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so let's start with your own personal health. And I just want to hear about your story, your journey, and what inspired you to start, your platform, your community.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I have had a passion for nutrition for most of my life. I was a swimmer and a runner growing up, and I kind of got to a point like mid high school where I just realized that I probably need to fuel better. I was definitely eating fast food, Pop Tarts for breakfast, like not the greatest thing, typical, American kid diet. And I wanted to up level my athletic performance for sure. And I also had a sensitive stomach. I mean, sure, I wasn't making the best choices most of the time, but I realized like, okay, I need to fuel better before practice. And when I eat these things, I feel good. When I eat these things before practice, I don't feel great. So I really was doing kind of a lot of self discovery in that aspect of things. And then I started to just like check out books in the library, research things online to see what could I be doing differently to feel better and feel better. And I kind of transformed a lot over a summer. And going into my senior year of high school, I was really just like crushing it athletic wise. And I was starting to get recruited, by colleges. And I just was like, wow, like sports nutrition really makes a huge impact and makes a really big difference. So I kind of felt my calling to, study nutrition in college. And I went through a dietetics program at Ashland University, did my residency after that through the VA Medical Center in Cleveland and Case Western. I got my master's in nutrition, and it was just amazing to just continue learning about how nutrition literally impacts every cell and organ in the body, and being
Mhm.
able to see how I could also help people, from a sports performance perspective. I've had the opportunity to work with athletes before and fuel better to perform better, but also just seeing that there's just so many people who struggle with adapting a healthy lifestyle, and that became very like easy for me to do. And so now it's kind of this like nutrition coaching aspect of, teaching people how to eat well, but also how to do it, because I think a lot of people know that they should eat, more
Yeah.
salads and more protein or whatever, but how do they do that? And how do they practically adapt different aspects of their lifestyle to make those accommodations to help, lose weight, to improve their blood work numbers, to improve chronic conditions that they might have. So it's really just been such an amazing journey to do that. And now as a wife and a mom of two little kids, like I also just can connect with people who have that going on for them as well, with being busy and also raising kids, in a healthy way. So how do you do all that? And then also just being a business owner, like I get the busyness of life, but also how do you prioritize yourself and your health, even with having a lot going on? So I just love getting to work with people one on one, and then through our group coaching program that I have as well, the Goal Getters group, which is an app where people can get support from me, meal plans, recipes, group coaching calls, all of that kind of stuff. So being a dietitian for almost a decade now, it's just such a passion of mine to help walk with people to learn like, okay, what are your biggest challenges and what do we need to do to get past that? Sometimes it's healing relationship with food. There's just a lot that people have kind of adapted from our diet culture to think like fat's bad or carbs are bad or whatever. And, doing things super restrictive is what a lot of people come from. And then they find me and they're like, okay, I clearly have a lot of disordered eating going on. I don't even know where to start with making changes. I feel like my cravings are out of control.
Mhm.
And I've come to learn too that so much of this comes back to blood sugar balance. And this is a huge part of my practice now because we know that what we eat, especially when we eat higher levels of sugar or carbohydrates, which is a lot of the standard American diet, leads to a blood sugar roller coaster all day long where people are constantly like getting energy and then crashing and then they have cravings again. And so getting to learn about that has been pivotal in my practice. And I think it's really the number one thing people need to focus on for long-term health and for sustainable weight loss and fat loss. So
Hmm. Amazing. Well, thanks for sharing that and congrats on your journey.
thank you.
So cravings. So where do you start with someone who comes in and is just, been eating sugar and unhealthy for 2 decades, 3 decades, and tells you that they can't stop eating sugar? What do you do?
Yeah, it's a common story here all the time. And when I start working with someone, I have them, write out a food log, and I'm like, be honest, right? Like, how am I supposed to help you if you're not going to be honest? But I need to know, like, okay, what is your day looking like? I feel like a lot of times when people struggle with a lot of cravings, it's because they're not setting up their day for success with a good foundation. Yes, there's research to support things like intermittent fasting, but especially for women and hormones, like that may not be beneficial. And so if we're not eating until 4 p.m., okay, yeah, it's going to be hard to control your cravings because your body is just trying to make up for the nutrients it didn't get. So I highly recommend a high protein, high fiber breakfast to start the day. And I'm also looking at like, okay, are you going long periods of time without eating? Are you eating enough protein and fiber in general throughout the day? Are you hydrating enough? Like all of those things are huge factors in whether or not we're having cravings. If they're sipping on sugary drinks all day, even if it's like a smoothie, okay, might have added sugar if it was packed from the grocery store. Are you, sipping on some coffee drink that has a lot of added sugar? Like all of those things are going to cause huge blood sugar spikes throughout the day. And those things are going to cause more cravings for more carbohydrates and more sugar as the day goes on. And so again, sometimes it's finding healthy swaps like, okay, we're going to do less pumps of sugar when you get your coffee drink, so trying to take baby steps can be helpful, or just trying to find like no to low sugar alternatives is great. But again, I would say that in most cases, when people are really struggling with cravings, it's because they're not starting their day out well when it comes to breakfast.
Hmm. Yeah, those are great tips. So again, let's say you have a client that knows this, they're doing it, but then the emotional aspect of life comes in, and now they're emotionally eating. How do you help someone with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I know that I can't know the ins and outs of everyone's like personal life, but, part of going through something like nutrition coaching, there is some level of, vulnerability of like, hey, let's talk about what your challenges are and like, who do you need to rely on for support for that? That may be a spouse or a significant other, a friend, or it may be going to therapy because I'm not a therapist. I'm here to listen, but I, can't be providing all of that kind of emotional support. So first and foremost, we need to know like how can we be managing our own like personal mental health with, good strategies like deep breathing and, again, seeking support verbally with that. Because again, if we're turning to food, that is a learned behavior. And learned behaviors can be unlearned or at least stopped,
Yep.
but we need to take baby steps to get there. And one of the things is obviously having other tools in your arsenal to know, like, okay, food is not going to fix my problem right now, but it's a learned behavior that is so deeply rooted in my neuropsychology to automatically go and grab those cookies when I've had a hard day. And so it's, one of the strategies that a lot of my clients work to implement is what I call an urge timer. So when you have an urge to eat something, it's this like impulse to want to go and give into it right away. And we are in an instant gratification culture. And this is something that can really sabotage someone's health, right? They think they're doing so well, they've done great all day, but they just have no pause button. And so this is that pause button. So if someone's struggling, I say, okay, you have that urge to go and eat something. Nothing bad's going to happen to you if you stop and pause. Set that timer for 20 minutes on your
Mm.
phone, your clock, wherever, and go do something else. Go distract yourself, go call a friend, go walk outside, go do something else. And then when that 20 minutes is over, come back and see where you're at, because an urge comes like a wave. It's going to come, it's going to peak, and it's going to die down. And so when we can learn to stop and pause, a lot of times we can recognize like, oh, I actually needed something else. I just needed some fresh air outside. I've just been cooped up today or
Yeah.
whatever. Or actually, I realized that I'm actually super hungry right now. So yeah, those cookies sounded good, but I actually need like a high protein balanced meal right now. Or that time goes by and they're like, wow, those cookies, yeah, they kind of sounded good in the moment, but like they're not appealing to me anymore. Or yeah, I still want some cookies, but instead of like going for like five, like I was going to in that impulse, instead I've thought about it mindfully. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to have, two cookies and maybe drink it with, have some protein with it to balance my blood sugars better, and then put the rest away. And I'm able to be a lot more mindful about it. So I think practicing that urge timer is such a great way to break that impulsiveness when it comes to stress or emotional eating, to get somebody to take that pause, to reevaluate what they actually need, and to remove yourself from the environment. Because if we're going to stay in that environment, stare at that food or whatever, it's so helpful. And this can be used in any strategy. I have clients use this at the workplace
The
when they
urge
see
timer.
donuts were brought in.
Yeah.
At a party, use the urge timer, when you're in any situation where you were tempted to eat something that you weren't planning on. This is a great strategy.
Yeah, I like it. The urge timer.
Yeah.
What are your like top top three things that when a client first comes to you, you want to make sure that they're doing right off the bat?
That is a great question. The top three things, I would say number one, hydration, because when we aren't well hydrated, we're in a state of dehydration. It is so easy to eat instead of drink, because we actually get very similar hunger and thirst cues from the brain, and our automatic reaction could be like, oh, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat something, but we're actually in a state of dehydration. And so I always say treat it with water first, and then reevaluate 20 minutes later, see if you actually need to eat something. We also know that hydration is just so beneficial for flushing things out, for helping us feel like we have energy, and all of those things are, again, need to be addressed first and foremost. So hydration, absolutely. Again, when it comes to hunger, a lot of times, if people are feeling hungry throughout the day, it could be because they're not eating enough protein. So I definitely focus on making sure we're getting in high protein meals, protein at snacks, if that's appropriate for them as well. We know that protein has this really awesome ability to shut off our hunger hormone. So we have that hunger hormone ghrelin, which makes you feel more hungry, and protein actually helps shut that down. And so that's going to be one of the things to actually make you feel full and satisfied and energized after a meal. So making sure that somebody's getting protein, period, at regular intervals throughout the day, and enough protein is going to be key, not only for, weight loss, fat loss, satiability, but also blood sugar balance. And then I would say the last thing is fiber, because we know fiber is one of the last things to be digested. It comes from our fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains, things like that. And fiber is literally one of those key nutrients that is shown to prevent things like cancer and different health issues, and also helps balance blood sugar. Like, it comes back to all these things. And we know that most Americans are not getting enough fiber, which is another reason I love the Zero Doubt Kitchen meals, because I seriously was like so impressed by the amount of veggies and fiber that were present in all of those meals. And that's, again, something that's going to help somebody feel so, so good from eating. And so a lot of times we need to amp that up. We also know that fiber is super helpful in lowering things like blood pressure, cholesterol levels, again, blood sugar levels. And so I would say water, protein, and fiber are like the biggest things that most people are not getting enough of. And then when we start to tweak those things, it's like, oh, I'm finally like down a few pounds, and oh, my blood sugars are
Not as
starting to come
hungry.
down.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And thanks for the shout out, Zero Doubt Kitchen meals. You're liking them?
Yes. Oh, I absolutely love them. And I'm telling you, like, I've never been able to confidently recommend a meal delivery or meal prep service ever, because I've never felt like they had enough protein. I felt like most of them were very carb heavy. Most of them didn't have enough vegetables. And again, things like sugar and seed oils were present. And it's like, yeah, it's going to make it taste better, but it isn't necessarily ideal for our health. And so when I was able to taste the meals and see how beautiful and colorful and vibrant they were, and just like really high quality ingredients, I was like so impressed and blown away. And I've been telling all my clients about them. So yeah, I'm so happy, of course, to be able to support another Cleveland business.
Yeah, no, thank you for sure. Because, yeah, we also obviously know how important food is. And, it starts with that. And then the mindset about, the mindset with food is how your mindset is probably with all areas of life,
Yeah.
right? So I love the urge timer. I think you can apply that for everything, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think about the same thing when it comes to parenting, like how many things that I want to do or not do. And then I'm like, okay, just give myself a pause and I'm going to come back to it and I'll have a better attitude at that time. So it
Yeah, I
is,
was just going to ask
it's,
you. Yeah, go. Well, I was just going to ask you. You got parenting, you got your business, your clients, your husband, right? So, like, how do
mhm.
you balance all that? What are some tips that you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think it's just all about, time management. I think that's the biggest thing. I think we're all busy. But the biggest thing that I think really helps prevent overwhelm for me is just knowing how to manage my time the best. I know that I have to wake up early in order to prioritize myself. I'm getting up at 6 a.m. every day so that I have time, for my prayer and reflection in the morning so that I can eat a solid breakfast by myself in peace. It's the only meal a day
Mm.
that I can eat by myself. And also that I have that opportunity to work out in the morning. I think all those things set my day up for success. And I know that not every day is perfect and ideal, especially in the world of chaotic parenting. But, being able to do that most days of the week, if not every day, is just so key for setting up myself for, you know, a good day with, getting ahead on some work. I have a walking treadmill desk. I have a desktop on my treadmill. And so that's a
Oh,
great way to get steps in at the start of the day, answer emails, get ahead on a few work things and be able to do that. I love getting to work from home too. The beauty of, I would say the best thing that ever happened to my business was COVID, because that is what allowed people to be open to a lot more virtual meetings and things like that. And that allowed me to start working from home completely. So it's definitely quite a balance, but having the support, I'm very thankful for my husband and my family who are all super supportive and helping with the kids and all the other things. But again, that's what I loved about Zero Doubt Kitchen too, is that there are some weeks like my husband travels for work and I want to prioritize my nutrition. I don't want to feel like, oh, I got to DoorDash food because I got to feed the kids now and it's been a crazy day. Like, so being able to plan better and know like I can use shortcuts that are actually still really good for my health and help me meet my nutrition goals and help me feel good is key. And sometimes, yeah, it does mean that I am going to allot more of my budget this month for groceries so that I can fuel myself well. And at the end of the day, I'm never going to regret that decision. I'm always going to be proud of the fact that I prioritize that. And so I think that's the other thing, is that sometimes people think like, oh, eating healthy is so expensive. And it's like, look at how much money you're spending eating out. Like, but if you were just
DoorDash
going
is
to
so
plan,
expensive.
yeah, right. I know you're the delivery fees
It's
and,
like $22 to deliver Chick-fil-A.
yeah, it's crazy. It's
Come
crazy.
on.
So again, you have to know like, okay, it's more just about planning better. Whether that is getting some like, shortcut proteins at Costco that are high quality, or shortcut veggies that are already like chopped or frozen stuff,
Mm.
or again, zeroed out kitchen meals. Like you have to know yourself. And so I'm having these conversations with clients all the time of like, you have to just plan ahead for those things. You're going to eat out or like not cook yourself. So like, what are you going to pick? Right? What is it going to be? And so if you can plan ahead and order something like the zeroed out kitchen meals, or, add, items to your grocery list or your Instacart delivery that is going to help support you in those times of not having a lot of time on your hands to prepare a meal, then you're going to set yourself up for success and be able to still hit your goals even when days get crazy. So I think that's the key there.
Yeah, I like it. So wake up, reflect, work out, have a great breakfast. So what's typically your great breakfast?
Yeah, so good. I really learned a lot about what balances my blood sugar the best because I had gestational diabetes in my most recent pregnancy with my son, who's just 6 months old. So I came to learn like some of the things I was eating for breakfast really weren't great for my blood sugars. And I wondered, like, why was I already hungry like 2 hours after eating? I felt like I ate a good breakfast. So now I've like learned like these are the things that keep my blood sugar steady, super high protein. So for me right now, my go-to is I make egg bakes with eggs. I usually saute veggies. I might, add some cheese in there or something, and I bake that up, and then I can cut those pieces and just put them in my meal prep containers. So I have that. I've also made these what I call no blood sugar spike muffins that are almond flour based, and I might
Hmm.
like throw some berries or something like that in there. So it's like nice to have kind of a carby type treat, but it won't raise your blood sugar, which is great. And almond flour has more protein and fiber. And then I'll have some sort of like a breakfast protein, like some chicken sausage, or if we made bacon over the weekend, we might make extra. So we have that for meal prep. And then I usually opt for some berries since those are lower glycemic index and better for blood sugars as well. So I'm also a nursing mom, so I need some more food and nutrients right now while I'm feeding another human. So I know people sometimes are like, oh my gosh, you have such huge meals. I'm like, well, I need extra right now. And I think that's another reason why you need to know yourself and need to know what your nutritional needs are. And I think that's where I struggled for many years as an athlete because I was definitely under fueling, where I was like, why am I like feeling like the need to eat this entire bag of pretzels right now or this entire jar of peanut butter? It's like because I needed more food at those meals. And I wasn't getting that. And so now that I know how to nourish my body super well, it is okay to have bigger meals, especially if you're somebody who feels like they need to snack all day long. You probably need to amp up your meals. And you have to know based on your activity level. Again, if you're nursing or pregnant or whatever, you have higher nutrient needs than somebody who's not. So good to know yourself.
Love it. All right, I got one more for you.
Yeah.
30 seconds, 30-second pitch on the elevator. Someone tells you that they can't lose weight. They just keep going up and down. What do they do?
Okay. So if you're struggling with stubborn weight loss, I think one of the best things that you can do is wear a continuous glucose monitor. And this is why. So, a continuous glucose monitor is a little sensor that goes on the back of your arm. I promise it doesn't hurt. It lasts 2 weeks. It will tell you in real time how food is impacting your body. And so I think one of the biggest problems rising in our country is the fact that people have insulin resistance and they're becoming carbohydrate intolerant. And part of that is our processed foods. Part of it is hormonal imbalance. And it could also be your season of life. But it really is so helpful to learn how food is impacting your body. And so you can make tweaks and changes based upon looking at the app. The sensor connects Bluetooth to an app. And then again, working with a dietitian like myself who's knowledgeable in how to interpret that data so we can actually make small tweaks and changes to your food and nutrition over time. You can also see how working out or going for a walk after you eat can help lower your blood sugars. Most people are in a fat storing mode of themselves most of the time because of what they eat. And when you can learn to make tweaks and changes to your nutrition and your lifestyle, you can work to get your numbers more in a fat burning mode. And that is just so key. And this is like the really big secret that I want everyone to know is that you can make weight loss and fat loss and improving your health and chronic conditions so much easier with a biosensor like a continuous glucose monitor where you can actually interpret your data and your health.
I like it. I thought you were going to say something completely different. But I like it.
I
That's great. That's great advice. If someone's been struggling, then here you go. Read this monitor. It's going to tell you what you shouldn't eat.
hmm Yeah, it's very individualized. I mean, but I think at the end of the day, it's like test, don't guess. You can think that certain things are healthy for you. Like I said, I was a dietitian. I thought like, oh, these things are great and healthy for me. They might be, but your body may not respond well to them. There's even clients I've had where they haven't had good responses to things like gluten and dairy. And digestive wise, they never had issues, but their blood sugars were spiking every single time they were eating
Mhm.
those foods. So clearly their body was having a not great response to that. And when they started to cut those things out or make swaps, they started to see improvements in their health. So again, whether you're using a sensor like a CGM or you're checking labs like fasting insulin and glucose, your thyroid, all those things are important to know. If you feel like you've been really struggling to lose weight, even with eating well and working out and all those things, then you may need to look more under the hood and see what's going on. I also really do thorough habit assessments on my clients because sometimes we don't want to reveal all of the maybe not so great habits we have when it comes to our health and our lifestyle. And so I think that's really important to address those things head on. And yeah, it's hard to make changes, but if you want to see results, then we have to kind of figure out what you can do differently.
Yeah, so true. Bring awareness to the situation. Hire a coach. Hire someone to talk to so you can put it all on the table. And then when you see it all on the table, you can make your decisions then, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think accountability is key too. Not only is wearing a sensor like a CGM accountability because you can't hide from it, right? You're going to eat something and see how you respond, which is why, like, even in the last few days I've been wearing one, I'm like, oh, I don't want to eat that right now because I don't want to see what happens. But I'll experiment too, and it's fun to do that. But also accountability being key with working with someone one-on-one. Because again, when you have to check in, you have to tell somebody like, here's my food log from the last couple of weeks. Here's what I've been struggling with. Like, you're able to address those things with someone who knows how to guide you into making improvements. And I think that is key. Anytime I've needed help with my business or stuff in my own life, hiring someone helps me get there faster and to know what I should be doing differently. And so I think it's definitely all about working smarter, not harder. Getting foods and tools that are going to help you. Again, going back to the meals that you guys provide, learning how to be a mindful eater is a game changer. Learning the shortcuts to help you meet your goals is also game changing. And so it's important to know what you need to do to get where you want to be.
Yeah. But it's very doable, and the journey is much more enjoyable than not doing it.
Yes, exactly. So true.
Love it. All right, Brittany, how can people reach out and find you? And you also have a podcast, so tell us.
I do. I know we'll have to have you on the podcast as well. For free content, feel free to follow me at Your Life Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, and you can join our email list by going to www.yourlifenutrition.org, and you can subscribe to our email, and then it's the Your Life Nutrition podcast. So lots of really great ways to connect. And if you go to my website, you can also learn more about working with me one-on-one by filling out the one-on-one coaching application. And once I receive that, I'll reach out to you for a free discovery call if you want to learn more. And then I also have our group membership app called the Goal Getters Group, where again, I'm posting things every single day, like weekly meal plans, recipes. We have group coaching calls on different topics to educate you more about nutrition and your health and how to improve it.
Awesome. So there it is, and we'll put it in the captions as well. And as far as if anyone's listening and hasn't tried our meals, then send me your email address anywhere through either the comments, the chat, Instagram, and I'll send you a gift card. Try the meals out. Yeah, they definitely help. For me, even I use them Monday through Thursday. Like, I have those days covered with Zero Doubt kitchen meals. I don't have to think about it. I'll just eat 2 of those and then add some other stuff around it. We have an event coming up July 3rd. If this podcast, I believe, might hit after that, but we have the first Thursday of every month. Right now we're doing them at Eaton. The next one's at 5 p.m. on the 3rd, and then the one after that we'll switch it back to 6:30, but we got the events there, so come join us, guys. Thanks for listening. Brittany, thanks for coming on. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, all right, guys, hope that was great for everyone and help someone out. Thanks, guys. Bye.